Are you a real boy? Are you sick and tired of all these YouTubers saying you need to take it slow on your first bike? Do you feel the need for speed, but you also can't afford to start on a Panigale V4R like those rich guys who buy one, ride it once, then instantly flip it on Craigslist the next weekend? Well, have I got the list for you? We're looking at the top 10 fastest beginner motorcycles you can buy and actually start on without looping in a parking lot or whiskey throttling yourself straight into a bridge abutment. This one's going to be divided into two separate segments. First, we're going to look at the top 5 fastest bikes in the 300 to 500cc range, with number 5 being slow as your mama chasing down a donut truck, and 1 being fast as the Flash if the Flash topped out at 120-ish miles an hour. Then, because I know actually people are going to be hard at work in the comments, we're going to take a look at the top 5 fastest 650 class bikes, since yes, you can start on those if you want. You can really start on any bike you want, but that's just what we here recommend. We're going to look at 2 metrics for determining fastest. One is 0 to 60, since that's most applicable in the real world, and then outright top speed, since that's the number all the keyboard warriors like to brag about to their buddies online. Now, there's one thing that every single responsible fast boy needs, and no, it's not a Turbo Hayabusa, although that would help. No, it's insurance. You might need to have insurance on your ride, my dude, and you shouldn't pay more than you need to. Could you imagine trying to take on I-35 in Texas without insurance? I mean, that's basically the real world version of the Fury Road. Our newest sponsor, Progressive, has you covered, literally and figuratively. They've got policies starting as low as $79 a year, and if you've got a car and bike like a lot of people do, you can save even more by bundling it all together. Also, let's be real, you're probably going to get yourself a full system exhaust and a tune and all sorts of crazy stuff for your 300 because you're convinced that you can make it go as fast as a 600. Well, if you go down, Progressive will cover those performance parts up to $3,000, including your gear. Click the link down below and get a free quote and see how much you can save, and then with all that savings, run out and buy an actual fast motorcycle instead of making your beginner bike faster. So starting off with our small displacement category, I've picked 4 of the best sub 500cc beginner bikes you can buy in 2021, and the CBR 500R, a bike so boring I literally forgot we gave one away. Starting us off at the bottom, we have the KTM Duke 390. One of the most wild looking beginner bikes, the Duke 390 shows us that being a Kyle knows no displacement. It's packing a 373cc thumper, putting down 44 horse and 27 foot-pounds of torques, which means it's plenty to keep a beginner entertained. But crucially for today's comparison, the 390 can reach a top speed of 99 miles per hour and go 0 to 60 in 4.19 seconds. Now, I know what you're thinking, 99 miles per hour is too slow, bro. I do not like. Must ride fast, bro. Skip to next bike. But hold your horses there. Sure, the top speed might not be the best in the business, but check that 0 to 60 time. 4.19 seconds is fast enough to beat most attainable sports cars. But instead of costing you your favorite testicle, the Duke 390 only costs $5,499. But I already know you skipped to the next section, so why am I even bother trying to explain myself? Now, number 4 and number 3 might confuse you guys a little bit because the bike with the faster top speed is lower on the list, but that's why we're talking both top speed and 0 to 60. So number 4 goes to the Yamaha R3. The R3 has a 321cc parallel twin that's putting down 42 horsepower and 22 foot-pounds of torques, meaning that it's a little outgunned in the category. However, that translates to a top speed of 112 miles per hour thanks to an extra cylinder and tall gearing. But making the R3 faster costs a lot of its time off the line, going from 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. Having ridden the new generation of R3s, I can say that you really do need to keep the bike on the boil to feel any sort of power out of it, otherwise it's really no more impressive than a little scooter. That's still much faster than Gixxer 250, let me tell you that. Now sure, it looks fast, it can do over 100 miles per hour, but waiting for the power is no fun. You can change the gearing to improve the 0 to 60 time, but you'll lose top speed, so with the R3, you need to pick your poison. Number 3 goes to Husqvarna Husky Svartpillen 401, and it goes to show you the KTM really isn't just reskinning its motorcycles and selling them as different bikes. The Svartpillen is packing the same 373cc thumper from the Duke, putting down the same 44 horsepower and 27 pounds-foot of torques, but somehow Husky managed to make the bike faster. It'll do a top speed of 105 miles per hour and do a 4.15 0 to 60. Yeah, it's not as fast as the R3, but man, when you crack the throttle open and feel it run through the gears, it's a much more exhilarating ride. My theory as to why the Husky is faster than the Duke is mainly down to the weight. The Duke tips the scales at 340 dry, while the Svartpillen clocks in at 335. It's also got a smaller gas tank than the Duke, so wet and ready to ride. It's still lighter. When it comes to little bikes like this, maximizing power and minimizing weight is huge, and every single pound counts. So take that as carte blanche to run out out and chop your muffler off with a hacksaw because the old Papa Yam said it'll make your bike faster. Number 2 goes to the Honda CBR 500R, the motorcycle equivalent of an empty room painted beige. A bike with a personality so muted it thinks flour is spicy. It wears a polo shirt with all the buttons done up and tucked into its pants and khakis, rolled up into a cuff because you wouldn't want to fray the edges. This is what happens when you try to turn a sport bike into a Versa 650. This mighty steed is putting down a fire-breathing 50 horsepower and 33 foot-pounds of torques out of its 471cc parallel twin. Yeah, a real big bike for a big boy who needs to prove his dad and his Harley that the Honda isn't a girl's bike. Well, my friend, you're sitting pretty on a motorcycle and go a whole 116 miles per hour. Good for you. Just don't think about the fact that the 0 to 60 time is an abysmal 4.72 seconds. Yep, you might be faster than everyone else out there under Duke 390s and R3s and Gixxer 250s, but they'll outrun you off the line and they'll have a lot more fun doing it too. This is probably the most clear example of how dumb the no replacement for displacement excuse is. You're the biggest displacement beginner bike, but for some reason, it's not the fastest. Unlike number 1, Kawasaki Ninja 400. This is a case where the bike has the whole package. Lightweight, bigger displacement, high top speed, and a solid 0 to 60 time, just in case you forgot. The Ninja 400 has a 399cc parallel twin, putting down 45 horsepower and 28 foot-pounds of crazy torques with 366-pound wet weight. The Ninja can do a top speed of 116 miles per hour, the same number as the CBR, with 72 fewer cc's, by the way. The biggest difference between the Ninja and the CBR is the fact the Ninja can do 0 to 60 in 4.14 seconds, which in case you're keeping track at home is half a second faster, which might not sound like a lot, but that's worlds apart and big difference, and it really adds up if you're on 2 wheels. So there you have it, the top 5 fastest little bikes out there, but as you've probably noticed, we're only halfway through the top 10 list. It's time to check the fastest bikes in the 650 class. Now, there's one notable absence from this list, that being the RS660, because that's not really a beginner bike. It's putting down a little too much power and it costs a little bit too much as a beginner bike. But let's take a look at the other 660 motorcycle out there, the Trident 660. Funny enough, the 660 is slower than all the other 650s out there. It's putting down 80 horsepower and 47 foot-pounds of torques out of its 660cc triple-cylinder engine, and while it's faster than the small displacement beginner bikes, maxing out at nearly 132 miles per hour, it's only the 5th fastest 650-ish cc bike out there. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, which is only a 10th faster than the Ninja 400. Having spent a good deal of time in the saddle of the Trident, I can say that while it is definitely faster than smaller bikes, the throttle is artificially muted to make its 80 horsepower a little bit more tame for a beginner. Maybe with a flash or a tune, you can make it feel a little zestier, but until then, you're stuck on the bottom of the totem pole. Number 4 in the 650 class goes to the tried and true Yamaha MT-07. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed that it's not higher up on the list, especially given the fact that the bike's up next, but still the 4th fastest 650 is nothing to shake a stick at. The 689cc cross-plane parallel twin puts down 74 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torques, which can get this bike up to speed to 134 miles per hour. What's surprising that it'll only do 0 to 60 in 3.73 seconds, maybe because the last time I rode an MT-07, I was on an XSR 700 with the full system in a tune, but I could have sworn those bikes were a little faster than that. Maybe the new MT-07 with its redesigned airbox and modified stock exhaust will do a little bit better, but I'm not really holding my breath. My guess that it'll actually be slower thanks to all the new Euro 5 emissions stuff, but hey, that's what aftermarket parts are for, right? The 3rd fastest motorcycle in the 650 class goes to the Ninja 650. If the Ninja 400 is the try-hard A student in the Ninja family, the 650 is the C student who skates by on the bare minimum of effort. Don't get me wrong, it's a perfectly adequate motorcycle, but it doesn't do anything particularly well, including going fast. The 650 has a 649cc parallel twin, putting down 67 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of toge, which can propel this bike up to a top speed of 131 miles per hour. This is another situation where, yes, the bike is slower than the one before it, but it's much faster off the line where it matters in the real world. Thanks to the bike's hefty torque down low, it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.53 seconds, and for a beginner straight bike, that's pretty darn quick. Unfortunately, the engine note isn't very inspiring, and while it looks like the ZX line of bikes, it doesn't handle like one, but hey, it's a beginner bike that'll outrun a supercar. But unlike the MT-07, it doesn't sound awesome, and it doesn't pull power wheelies in 2nd and 3rd gear. Whatever. Next up, we have the Suzuki SV650. SV650 owners down in the comments are already pointing out with a few mods it'll be faster than the number 1 bike, but we're comparing stock bikes here, so they'll have 2nd place and they'll like it. The SV is packing a 645cc V-twin, putting down 74 horsepower and 47 pounds-foot of torgos, which can get this bike up to 134 miles per hour. Man, it's almost like the bikes with the same displacement always get to basically the same speed or something. It's almost like physics is a thing. Anyways, the more important thing is that the SV650 will do 0 to 60 in 3.39 seconds, which means that it's faster and better than the Ninja 650 in both top speed and 0 to 60. I will also grant you that while the SV's top speed might not be amazing right out of the box, those smug SV boys are right. You can get all kinds of performance parts for this bike, including fairing kits to help cut down the drag. If you're looking for a bike that has the potential to go a lot faster through modification, then this might be the bike for you. But if you want the fastest beginner bike you can get your mitts on, you're going to want the Honda CBR 650R. It's unique in the 650 class by being the only inline-4 engine, which means that you'll stand out amongst all your beginner bike buddies who are riding around on parallel twins and V-twins. The CBR is one of those bikes where no one can seem to agree on a power figure. I've seen numbers from 94 to 75, so I'm going to use the Cycle World dyno numbers. They clocked it at 80 horsepower at the wheel and 42 pounds-foot of torques. But unlike the Trident, this bike does not have a neutered throttle, meaning you can get this thing all the way to 144 miles per hour, which is pretty dang fast for a motorcycle, period, let alone a beginner bike. Are we sure we want to call it a beginner bike? I don't know. Better still, it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, which is surprising seeing as how the SV has more torque and is slower off the line. I gotta admit, this is the very bleeding edge of a beginner bike, considering that it's a bit expensive and a bit much, but if you're responsible, you could probably ride it just fine. Just make sure you find a spot with no cops, and if you want to stretch its legs. Fact: phenonopalatin ganglioneuralgia is the medical term for brain freeze. And I said that right the very first time I read it. Goodbye.
Wow, look how pretty this is. You know what else is pretty? My beautiful face and this next Yammie Noob video. Click it right over here and check it out for yourself. There's fun memes in it, maybe Hayabusas, maybe some cool stuff. There's only one way to find out. Click that video. Do it now.